Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would address something that's come up both in some of my live streams as well as a video I made recently, where I discussed the fact that things like cupping and ice baths are placebo gone wild, and yet people still come in and defend these things, and I thought it was fascinating because of some points people raised. And I'll address a couple of those points so that people understand where I am coming from. And I want to be very, very clear here. If you look at the scientific literature, right, unbiased, and you just walk in, because I am personally looking for any advantage I can get. As a strength coach, as an athlete, someone obsessed with recovery, particularly being a 46-year-old athlete. I care about recovery. Right? There are no limits to which I will go if something is shown to improve recovery. So I'm going to look at this stuff very unbiased. Like, I'm looking for truth. If you have no bias towards these things and you look at the research, okay, I want to be very, very clear. If you have no bias and you look purely at the data, you would think both of these things are butt fucking retarded. Okay, let's be clear on that. The scientific evidence has not been kind. So, let's get over into how these things become popular. I thought it was fascinating with the cupping one. You know, someone came in my comments and tried to say, well, they've been proven to do this and this, and it's got 1,000 years of Chinese evidence. And it's like, oh, so because people in medieval times used a method of medicine that the research hasn't found to have the same effects, it's proven. Like, first off, that's insane, because that doesn't mean something's proven. People got a lot of stuff wrong 1,000 years ago. People got a lot of stuff wrong 50 years ago that we found with modern measurements. It hasn't panned out. Okay. The mechanisms by which it works shouldn't do anything. Like, there's no actual real mechanism in the body that would indicate it could have these benefits. So what you have is no mechanism of action describable. Evidence hasn't shown it to be useful, right? Evidence hasn't been very good. Needs more research, low quality research, very little research is always the answers given. Okay? Which means, let me translate that. The data sucks. It doesn't seem to do anything. There are people with a lot of vested interest in it. So, that's what that means. Let's translate that. Not proven. All right, ice baths. All right, the idea, well, it helps with recovery, because it takes swelling and inflammation down, because that's you ice injuries, except that we've learned that icing injuries isn't good. You know why you ice injuries? To get swelling down so the doctor can operate. Okay, training response of any type is blunted by cold. It's not my opinion. That's what the data shows. That's what, we kind of have an idea. We know why biologically. You know why? Because it reduces blood flow. Reducing blood flow to areas that we want to recover, whether it's a hypertrophic response, cardio training, whatever else, inflammation. Reducing blood flow to areas that we want to heal and speed up recovery in isn't a good idea. Let me state that again. Cold reduces blood flow. Reducing blood flow to areas that we want to heal or recover as quickly as possible is a bad idea. It's counterproductive. It's harmful. Now, the evidence shows that it can blunt training response. We can reduce the benefits of training. Well, what do people think the practice is in your sports? It's training. It's a form of training. You are training certain physical modalities in the body, not just coordination usually. Okay? Because people say, well, what about people playing real sports, not just trying to gain muscle? Okay, let's come over to that. Hey, if you're trying to gain muscle, let's just be clear. Putting cold in an area where you were trying to grow the muscle tissue is butt fucking retarded based upon all available evidence. Like you are ignorant and don't know even the most basic science if you think that's a good idea. But let's come over to the other. It still blunts training response. Why are you practicing? Usually to get better at what you're trying to do. Are there any tissue adaptations? In the bone, the tendons, the blood vessels, capillaries. Well, yeah, oftentimes with any sports practice, there's some of that. Yeah, not just coordination. So you're trying to blunt that. All right. The literature has not been kind to it either. So, why do pro athletes do this? Because pro athletes do anything and everything. All right, when you have a $3 million or a $5 million or a $10 million contract on the line, you will do anything to get any advantage. And the idea, it doesn't matter what it costs, it doesn't matter what you sacrifice, anything that is rumored to work, you do it. If it costs you $10,000, it doesn't matter because you're trying to make millions. It's irrelevant. The cost is irrelevant. Pro athletes will throw 30 things at the wall hoping 3 to 5 of them stick. Everything but the kitchen sink. Do anything and everything possible that has any chance. Now, accordingly, believe it or not, all right, get ready for this. Most elite and professional athletes don't have advanced biology or sports medicine degrees. All right, let's get that clear. Most of them also don't spend a lot of time reading scientific research, okay? They're susceptible to con men just like the average normal person is. In other words, a professional athlete has nothing in their skill set that makes them more resistant to con men than the average person. Right? Because on average, the average elite athlete doesn't have, say, a really high above average IQ necessarily. They're usually the same average range as the general population. They oftentimes don't have superior social awareness skills. It's because it's not required to be great at a sport. You don't have to have above average skills in those areas. Therefore, you're probably, on the same spectrum range that everyone else is. They don't have an ability, a magical ability to deter con men and scam artists to throw a good sales pitch. Okay? They're just as susceptible as everybody else. That's why they fall for stupid stuff like this. Because they're not better or smarter or more knowledgeable than the average person. They probably just have a good talent toward the sport. They have a good predisposition or a great predisposition towards the sport in question or the skills involved, and they usually have a real good work ethic. Right? That is the traits that tends to make great athletes. Therefore, they're just as susceptible as other people to scams and cons and nonsense. And I would suggest that that's exactly what this is. And then people say, well, they wouldn't invest this much money or effort into it if it didn't work. Of course they would. They do it all the time in sports. Because in fact, they're more likely to do it. Because someone's spinning a good story and they have the disposable income to do it. And they're willing to risk anything to win. Kind of one of the personality traits of being a great athlete. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.